You know, when we think about the age of exploration, the story we usually hear is about European empires just sweeping across the globe, conquering pretty much everyone. But that is not the whole story, not even close. Today, we're going to talk about the incredible saga of the Sultanate of Aceh, a kingdom that didn't just stand up to the mighty Portuguese Empire, but fought them to a standstill for over 120 years. So here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll look at how this whole rivalry got started. Then we'll dive into Aceh's absolutely incredible first victories. After that, we'll zoom out to look at the century-long struggle, meet some of the legendary heroes who led the fight, and finally, we'll wrap up with the powerful legacy of their resistance. Okay, let's set the scene. We're in the early 16th century, right in the middle of one of the most important shipping lanes in the entire world, the Strait of Malacca. Two powers, one a global empire and the other a rising star, were on a collision course, and it was about to ignite a conflict that would last for generations. So, on one side, you've got the Portuguese Empire. They had just conquered the great city of Malacca in 1511, and their goal was simple: get total control over the ridiculously profitable spice trade. But here's the thing. Their own actions kind of created their biggest rival. See, Muslim merchants who didn't want to live under Portuguese rule fled Malacca and flocked to Aceh. This turned Aceh into a new, incredibly wealthy, and fiercely independent center for trade. This war didn't kick off with some fancy declaration. Nah, it started with a really bold statement. In 1519, Acehnese forces attacked two Portuguese ships and killed their crews. For the Portuguese, this was just an unacceptable act of defiance. They decided this rising power needed to be taught a swift, brutal lesson. The Portuguese probably thought they could just roll in and crush this upstart sultanate. They were about to find out just how wrong they were. These first major battles, well, they set the tone for an entire century of fierce and surprisingly successful Acehnese resistance. So, in 1521, a Portuguese fleet shows up. It's led by a commander named Jorge de Brito, and his mission is crystal clear: punish Aceh, and while you're at it, sack the capital city, which they heard was just overflowing with gold. This wasn't just some small raid. This was them trying to completely erase a competitor from the map. And this table tells you everything about how that went. Look at the numbers. The Portuguese show up with 200 guys. Sultan Ali Muhayyad Shah meets them with 1,000 soldiers and this is my favorite detail, war elephants. The result was an absolute rout for the invaders. And if you look closely next to the Portuguese commander's name, that little cross means, yep, Jorge de Brito did not make it home. The price for trying to conquer Aceh was just staggering. More than 60 of their soldiers were killed. That's nearly a third of their entire invasion force, wiped out. This wasn't just a loss, it was a total humiliation. It sent a very clear message: Aceh would not be an easy prize. And Aceh didn't just sit back and celebrate. No, they went on the attack. Riding the high from that huge victory, they immediately started consolidating their power. They captured the neighboring states of Padir and Pasai, which happened to be Portuguese allies. So in just 3 short years, Aceh went from a target to the undeniable top power in northern Sumatra. So those first wins were huge, but they were really just the opening act. What came next wasn't some short war. It was an epic, multi-generational struggle for control of one of the most important trade routes on the planet. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. 120 years. From 1519 all the way to 1639, the Sultanate of Aceh and the Portuguese Empire were pretty much in a constant state of war. That's just an incredible testament to the resilience and sheer determination of the Acehnese people. This timeline really puts it all into perspective. Aceh wasn't just defending, they were launching massive attacks of their own. I mean, look at 1568. They laid siege to Malacca with an army of 15,000 soldiers. Then in 1606, they smashed another big Portuguese naval force. And even though they eventually lost a major naval battle in 1629, which kind of ended their dream of conquering Malacca, it still didn't end their independence. They just could not be broken. And here's a crucial point. Aceh wasn't fighting this war alone. They were masters of diplomacy, building a powerful network of allies. Most importantly, they had the backing of the Ottoman Empire, which supplied them with advanced cannons, expert gunners, and military advisors. This support was a total game changer, turning Aceh into a military force that could go toe-to-toe with European technology. But a fight that lasts for over a century isn't just about a state or an army. It's about the people.
And this resistance was led by some of the most remarkable and frankly fearsome figures in military history. This quote here, it says it all. And it's from a Dutch historian, an enemy. He's basically saying that the spirit of resistance in Aceh was total, and that the women were some of the most ferocious fighters he had ever heard of, driven by what he calls a deathless energy. Just amazing. And no one, absolutely no one, embodied that spirit more than Admiral Kamala Hayati. Get this, she commanded the Inong Ballet, an elite army made up entirely of widows whose husbands had been killed fighting the Portuguese. She wasn't just a commander, she led the entire Achinese navy. And in 1599, in an unbelievable feat, she personally killed the Dutch commander Cornelius de Houtman in single combat on the deck of his own ship. She is, without a doubt, one of the greatest naval commanders in history. And then you have Sultan Iskandar Muda. If Aceh ever had a golden age of pure power, it was under this guy. During his reign, Aceh actually controlled more of the spice trade than the Portuguese did, and he launched the biggest military expeditions they ever attempted against Malacca. He was Aceh's imperial ambition and power, all rolled into one. Okay, so after 120 years of non-stop, brutal warfare, what was the final score? Who actually came out on top? Well, when you look at what each side wanted, the answer becomes pretty clear. The Portuguese goal? Build a fortress in Aceh and control the strait. Outcome? Total failure. The Achinese goal? Keep their homeland free and stop the Europeans from colonizing them. Outcome? They absolutely succeeded. Sure, they never captured Malacca, but they achieved their #1 most important objective. This chart paints the picture perfectly. Portugal's ambitions in Sumatra were sky high, but they ran into an equally high wall of Aceh's resistance. The result? Their final control in the area was basically zero. Aceh's defiance completely wrecked their entire imperial project on the island. And that brings us to the ultimate takeaway. Because of this 120-year fight, Aceh stayed independent, stable, and rich. Their incredible resistance didn't just save themselves, it protected the entire island of Sumatra from European domination for centuries. It really is one of the most successful anti-colonial struggles in all of history. And all of this leaves us with one final thought. The story of Aceh is such a powerful reminder that history isn't just about the conquerors, it's also full of incredible stories of resistance. It really makes you wonder, right? How many other unconquerable sultanates and defiant heroes have just been forgotten by history?